Hey, good morning, Metropolis. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city.
Come on! Let's get pumped!
Not drinking any fucking Merlot! What can I say? The camera loves me.
Shall we begin? After you, Junior.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Multiplex Logged It. Our show today is Horror Guilty Pleasures. Tim Brzakala could sadly not make it tonight, but oh well, you're stuck with me, the horror fanatic. Everybody knows if there's anything I love, it's a good horror movie, specifically one with like a lot of blood. Like, yeah, that's just my bag. Anyway, John, speaking of a lot of blood, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I don't know if I necessarily have a lot of blood, here in this house, but on my computer screen, on my television screen, there's usually a lot of blood. If you actually, growing up, I had a horrible fear of blood, and I would pass out at the sight of it. And horror movies is how I fixed that for myself. So that's how I did it.
Wow, I didn't expect you to take that prompt so seriously. Usually people just kind of roll with what I say, but yeah.
I'm gonna internalize everything you say, Caleb.
Don't do that. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
I don't want to say anything because I don't want you to internalize anything now. How are you?
I mean, all the blood I have is kept here inside, so we're good.
That's not where I thought that was going. Okay,
Brian, where do you keep your blood?
I'm old, so it doesn't go where you think it's going. But I keep it in the bodies that are in the freezer, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. That's good.
We are all definitely now on a watch list. So, yeah.
Oh, I've said that I've shot John F. Kennedy several times on this show. If we're not on a watch list already. Anyway, we're going to get started first with your favorite movie you logged this week. John, let's start with you.
I had a clear front runner up until one of these movies I wanted to watch actually hit streaming services today. So my favorite movie that I logged this week is actually a movie I didn't get out to theaters to see. Barbarian, 2022's Barbarian is probably my favorite movie that I logged this week. I really, I knew a little bit about it because everybody was saying going blind. So I tried to avoid as much as I could. And I was pleasantly surprised by every twist that thing took. That movie was tight. 99.9% perfect for my taste. One little tiny issue I had with it, but didn't affect it. That's a 5-star movie.
That is completely fair. Yeah, Barbarian. I have not seen this yet. I've been told not a Boatman movie. Brian, have you seen this yet?
I have actually. I saw this opening night, and it was actually one of those that's really fun to watch with the crowd because it's got a lot of weird twists and turns that you don't see coming necessarily. It's like every time you think, oh, that was the big twist of the movie, it's like, nope, it's got a few more turns to take. But yeah, I mean, it's got it's a great cast. I like Bill Skarsgård. I like Justin Long's in there. I can't discuss it too much. Not giving stuff away for people who haven't seen it, but it's another strong horror movie and a strong year for horror. That
is completely valid. Bill, have you seen this yet?
I did. I actually went to theaters and saw this and was wow. That I got whiplash from that film of how quickly things just happened. And I'm like, oh, we're doing this now. Okay, where is this going? So yeah, pleasantly surprised. Fantastic time.
I think the strength of it is that the most horrible things that happen in that movie, they don't even touch. They just this happened. And then
the trailers give none of it away.
Oh yeah, that's what I loved about it because I went and saw it before I heard too much about it, and it was like, wow, this is not at all where I thought this was going.
Right,
not even close.
That is completely fair. Well, Brian, we'll go over to you. What is your favorite movie you logged this week?
Actually, I'm gonna cheat if I can. I'd like to talk about a rewatch and a new watch if I can do that. Tim's not here; he got an extra spot. Just because Halloween season is upon us. I do want to mention, I usually try to do first-time watches only, but I want to do a rewatch I watched recently, and you should all watch it. It's a movie called Scare Me. This is a movie that is available on Shudder, so I mean, you get your 7 free day trial, 7-day free trial for Halloween time. Watch it, cancel it, whatever. But basically, this entire movie is just basically two people in a cabin telling scary stories to each other. It stars Aya Cash, who you might know from The Boys, or if you watch You're the Worst, which is a great series. And the other guy is actually also the director. He also directed Werewolves Within, if you saw that one. But it's a horror comedy. And like I said, all it is two people telling stories to each other. And I think like a couple other characters come in, like Chris Redd from Saturday Night Live. He shows up for a small part of it. But especially Aya Cash, she's just amazing in this. I recommend if you like horror comedies especially, check out this movie. Has anybody else here seen that movie?
It's on my list because I love Aya Cash, and I always meant to watch it, but I haven't seen this yet. But yeah, I definitely will see it soon.
I also have not seen this, so it sounds like a good time.
I would highly recommend it. But my first time watch that my favorite one I watched the last week-ish is a Hulu movie called Rosaline, however you want to pronounce it. This is a movie starring Caitlin Dever. It's basically the story of Romeo and Juliet, as told by Rosalind, who was Romeo's girlfriend at the time he met Juliet, who is now the jilted lover. So she's jealous. She's trying to ruin their relationship, trying to get him back, all that kind of thing. Of course, this other man comes into her life, and she is, obviously they're going to be the ones ending together. So it's not any big surprises. But I'm a sucker for Shakespeare movies and Shakespeare adjacent stuff like this that takes a new twist on it. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, things like that. I tend to really love. I really enjoyed this one. It's of course you got Caitlin Dever, who's just on a hot streak, and she brings her kind of sarcastic humor to this, and it works perfectly for it. But it's just a light, fun rom-com. It's nothing too serious. I know you see a Hulu movie and you tend to think just kind of write it off, but it's actually, Hulu's been on a pretty good run lately with things like Prey and stuff. So this is a pretty good one worth checking out. Excuse me. I think the music is great in it. They kind of work in like some modern music, but it actually fits pretty well in this. The guy who plays Romeo looks like 10 Things I Hate About You era Heath Ledger. It's kind of weird. And the guy who plays her new love interest is totally Oscar Isaac. But yeah, the director is, the only other movie she did was called Yes, God, Yes, which is a movie with Natalie Dyer in it. But this is just a movie that I think not really anyone else in the community has watched it, and they should, because it's a lot of fun, especially if you like Shakespeare.
I've had like 2 or 3 people tell me that I will really like this movie, but I have not seen it yet. Has anyone seen it yet?
No.
I haven't even heard of it.
I've seen it. I log into Hulu consistently, and I've seen it pop up, but I have not watched it yet.
Fair enough. Bill, we're gonna go over to you. What's your favorite movie you logged this week?
It was a rewatch for a match, and I decided there's never not a good time to rewatch The Long Kiss Goodnight. I absolutely adore this movie. It is like when Shane Black is on and he gives a shit, there's few better that can just crank out some of the best dialogue I've ever heard in a film. All the laughs come from like character and just like, it's just so good. Samuel L. Jackson is just like, every word out of his mouth should be in a museum of just how perfect every bit. And even like the minor performances by like Craig Ferko, I think it is just like fantastic as the just shitty bad guy, but he's just so charismatic in the role. We probably should have let him do more stuff. So, on the basis of this, if you like this kind of movie, it's a very action, just very light. Don't think about it for more than a minute or two, and you'll have the time of your life.
You kind of had me until your very last sentence, Bill. That's my. Yeah. If you say that about a movie, you're gonna turn me.
You will not be bored watching this movie. You will laugh your ass off and enjoy every minute.
Fair. Anyway, John, have you seen The Long Kiss Goodnight?
95 to 97 is like a magic time for me because I was working in a movie theater at the time. So pretty much every movie that came out I've seen. I definitely saw this numerous times, and the water wheel scene is like burned into my memory. I can close my eyes and see that every single time. So I think Long Kiss Goodnight is a great movie. I remember having a great time watching it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it was definitely fun.
That is fair. Brian?
Yeah, obviously people know how I feel about Shane Black movies, and especially 90s movies too. This was a great one. It's really, this is before people even really knew who Shane Black was. I mean, he'd written some stuff, those Lethal Weapons and things like that, but he wasn't directing yet, and so his name wasn't really, the selling point of a movie. But it's definitely, I mean, you look at it now, it's got that trademark kind of dialogue and wit to it. Of course, you got the Christmas time setting. Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson as he does most movies, but it still is awesome. It totally works here. Yeah, Craig Bierko. I love Craig Bierko. He's never really had he doesn't do a whole lot of big projects. I mean, I see him a lot of little, movies, like there's a comedy called Sour Grapes with Steven Weber I enjoy for some reason, a few other things. But yeah, this is a great action comedy. I know I believe Rennie Harlan directed it, and he was coming off of, Die Hard 2, and I think he did Cliffhanger and some other stuff in the 90s. We don't hear much from him lately. I think he does some straight-to-video stuff, but this is a good one.
That is fair. Yeah, I have not seen this. So now we are going to go to me for my favorite movie log this week, and I think I'm going to go. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this one. I think my pick is going to be a movie that we did, I believe, talk about last week, but or 2 weeks ago. But I finally got around to it. Mean Streets. I finally watched Mean Streets. I had this on my radar for like the longest time. I watched it last night. I was like, why not finally get around to this? And yeah, it rules. You can tell where Scorsese is going to go from here. There's a lot of like groundwork laid for his later career moments, but also like there's a hint of unpredictability to it. Like you can tell it's still young Scorsese. De Niro is really good in this, and I really like the dynamic between him and Keitel. I think it's like really fascinating. Keitel being like, I love you, buddy, but you need to stop. I think it's really fascinating. Yeah, really good. John, you seen Mean Streets?
This is one of those, like, I need to rewatch it as an adult movie. My father watched a lot of stuff, and it was just going on in the background as a child. So I definitely can, if you played a scene of this movie, I could identify it as Mean Streets, but I can't really speak about it at an expert level. I know my dad likes it, so that's a plus.
Fair enough. Brian?
No, I mean, this Scorsese, De Niro, Keitel, this is, not really a Brian kind of movie. It's one I always kind of thought I'd end up watching at some point for trivia, but then I stopped doing competitive trivia, so I don't know if I ever will, but yeah, just not my kind of thing.
Fair. Bill?
I think I saw this, and I don't remember because I was a teenager. I had a friend of mine, and he was, obsessed with De Niro. Had like a book and a catalog, and he was like, it's my goal to watch every movie he's ever done. And I think I tried to watch this one. I just think it wasn't for me at the time, but that's just my tastes were weird. I mean, I ended up enjoying Mad Dog and Glory, so that lets you a little bit know about who I am as a person. So I think this is one I've been meaning to go back to. I just never get around to it. So.
Oh yeah, I am so shocked that Bill Cariola enjoyed Mad Dog and Glory.
Everybody I have watched that movie loves Mad Dog and Glory. That is a thoroughly underrated film. Fair.
No, yeah. I know that that's a Bill movie.
It's fantastic.
Anyway, now we'll go back over to John, because now we're going to go to your least favorite movie log this week. John, line us up.
When you watch as much horror movies as I do, like whenever I log into any streaming service, they just recommend a bunch of crap to me. So HBO Max recommended the movie to me, and I did not even understand how it got classified as a horror movie. And then when I looked it up online, it's really polarizing. People either love it or they hate it. Unfortunately, I'm a hate it person. This is We're All Going to the World's Fair. It came out last year. Sorry to type all that out, Boatman. We're All Going to the World's Fair. It's about a girl who has like a YouTube channel kind of, and she does like a viral challenge. And it's just kind of like, it's like the horror is it's basically a horror about like the bleakness and loneliness of being like a teenage girl on the internet. I don't relate. Maybe I'm just old now. I don't know. If this is what movies are going to become, like I need to avoid these movies. Nothing happens. It's like an hour and a half movie. It feels like it's 5 hours long, and it's not scary and it's not interesting. So that sucked.
That's fair. I had vaguely heard of this movie, but all I had heard about was the title. Brian, you seen this?
I'd heard of the movie. I have not seen it. In a different community I was in, somebody was looking for horror recommendations a while ago, and like 2 people brought up this title, and I'm like, oh, I'll add that to my watch list. And then like 20 people responded, said, no, don't bother watching it. So I never got around to watching it.
All right, Bill?
Never even heard of this shit.
Fair enough.
I imagine 12-year-olds probably find this horrifying if they watched it, but like it was not scary.
Fair enough. Brian?
So I've actually had a pretty good week or so in terms of things I've been watching. Mostly a lot of really good watches and rewatches. The actual worst movie I watched for a different show, so I'm not going to cover that one here. So the one that I'm going to talk about is actually not a movie I hate, but it's just my least favorite one that I've watched this week. It's not a good movie by any means, but it's got a certain bit of charm to it, and that's a horror movie from 2008 called One-Eyed Monster. This is a movie, the only people in it you will have heard of are Amber Benson from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charles Napier, maybe some of you know, and Ron Jeremy. What this movie is basically a cast and crew of a porn movie are going to shoot a porn movie in a cabin, a remote, mountain cabin in the middle of winter. And at one point, some alien force comes over and invades Ron's body. Next thing you know, it basically removes itself with his dick. And then the rest of the movie is just this severed penis going around killing people in all the ways that you can imagine. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's a horror comedy. It's not a porn movie, but I mean, it's the acting. Well, half the cast is porn actors. The acting is totally on par with your typical porn movie. But it's supposed to be. It's poking fun of itself. It's supposed to be cheesy. It's supposed to be bad, and it is fun. I mean, it's a fun concept. It is not. The movie doesn't end up being as funny as it could have been. They didn't quite do everything they could have with it, but it's the kind of movie you just watch with friends and make fun of and enjoy. And it, like I said, it's got some really creative kills as far as what you can do with that. At one point, somebody sees it move across the floor, and they said, "Hey, it looks like an inchworm." It's like, no, more like a 9-inch worm. Things like that. Or in Independence Day, in Independence Day when the alien is controlling Brent Spiner up against the window. The alien does that with somebody else in this movie. He controls him by going up his ass. So anyway, lots of fun stuff. Not necessarily a family movie. Like I said, I didn't hate the movie. It's just I'm talking about it like I really loved it. It was fine for what it was. It was just my least favorite movie I watched this week.
I really want to go back to a minute ago where I didn't know that this movie existed. Bill.
Give me 1 sec and add to cart. Cool.
John, you seen this yet?
I have seen this, and I agree with everything Brian said. I probably like it more than even Brian does. They actually were making a sequel to it called One-Eyed Monsters. I believe it got it just got help in production, and now that Ron Jeremy's facing jail time, I don't believe it'll ever get made. But yeah, everything Brian said is true. There's a scene where it wraps around somebody's throat because it's long enough to do that.
Yep.
Everything. Caleb, seriously, when you've watched this, come tell me about it. I'm sure you and your family can get together and watch this movie. This is definitely like a Boatman family movie, I feel. So you should definitely.
Could you take a photo of the aftermath of this film being watched in the Boatman house?
Yeah. Maybe bring it on a Sunday, watch it.
I think you need a Kingsman watch along. That's what you need.
Oh my God, please.
Kingsman watch along. I definitely a few of the Kingsmen would love this movie. I know, and I think which ones would love it. I can't see Caleb liking it, but I know. But some of them would love it.
Anyway, we're gonna go to the Bill, you with the hat.
Sure.
Well, you all have hats. You're all Gen Xers with hats on.
Hats and glasses, fucker. Get on our level.
Bill, go ahead.
What am I doing? It's the worst.
Your least favorite of the week.
Yeah, okay. That was this is an easy one. There we go. Nice. Now it's a thing. For a hot minute there, it was going to be Halloween Ends, but I watched something far worse. Going through Rennie Harlan's entire catalog, I've been putting it off for a very long time, but I finally watched Cutthroat Island, and this movie's dog shit. Kudos, they really, really did a wonderful job with the sets and locales, but my God, this thing is 2 hours and it feels like 4. It is a slog to get through. And also, the whole thing is like, find the treasure. How do you fuck this up? And they kind of do, because they find the treasure, and there's still 45 minutes left in this film where I'm like, what are we possibly even doing here? How are we like, you're done. You did it. I don't care anymore. And it just drags on forever. Gina Davis was wrong for this. Luckily, Rennie Harlan figured out how to make her an action star a few years later, thank God, because got that right. Matthew Modine also kind of lost. The only one who showed up and understood and knew what he was doing, because he's a goddamn G, is Frank Langella. As always, that guy never phoned it in. But no, I would avoid this movie like the plague. It is boring.
That's fair. I haven't watched this because I know its reputation. John?
I watched this when I was a teenager. I don't remember hating it that much, but I don't remember liking it either. I remember being like, that's a movie I watched. So I think that's probably a fair assessment. I have watched it. I can't tell you much about it. Didn't really leave an impression on me as a teenager, so that's fair enough.
That is fair. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I watched this when it came out, and I thought, it's not good, but it's whatever. And I kind of forgot about it. It's just a very forgettable film. Years later, I went back, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't that bad. A lot of these people have gone on to do other things. And I'm like, I'll check this movie out. And I went back and watched it, and yeah, it's not great. I mean, pirate movies were never super in fashion since the days of Errol Flynn or something like that, until basically Pirates of the Caribbean. But there's a reason they didn't make many more of these in the 90s, because whenever they made one like this, or in the 80s they had the pirate movie with Kristen McNichol, things like that, they weren't good. So yeah, there's a reason they didn't make more of these.
Valid. So now we're over to me. Hey everyone, you know what happened a little less than a week ago? I got morbed. Morbius was not good, but it was not good in such a way that I was really disappointed by the way in which it was not good. Because I had built it up in my head that this was just one of the most awful, atrocious movies, and it is really, really bad. Do not get me wrong, but it's bad in such an uninspired and just soul-sucking way where I just felt bleh. It was bad in just the most boring way possible. It was just I hated every minute of it. It was a bad time. Matt Smith was okay. He's the only person who kind of knew what movie he was in. John, you see Morbius?
No, I mean, this seems like a movie I have to eventually see, but then every time I hear somebody talk about it, it just pushes it further down the list. You guys are helping me procrastinate watching Morbius, so I thank you guys, but I have not seen this movie.
That's fair. Brian?
I didn't hate this movie. I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but I don't understand the overwhelming, hate and criticism it gets. It's not any worse than 30 other mid-range comic book movies I've seen in the last several years, and I'd honestly like it better than a lot of it. Hell, I'd rather watch this movie again than the Batman, because I hated the Batman. But that's just me. I know that and I'm fully aware that's a hot take. You don't need to at me. It's just I did not care for that version of it at all. I mean, it's a movie I was never interested to see in the first place. I was like, why are they making this movie except just to try and cash in on something else from the Spider-Man universe that they had the rights to? I like everybody in it, generally speaking. I mean, I've liked a lot of Jared Leto's movies. I've liked a lot of Matt Smith's movies, things like that. But I mean, it doesn't really work in the end. But again, and it does feel I know a lot of people said it feels like a 90s or early 2000s superhero movie. I'll agree with that. But it's not nearly as bad as it's made out to be.
Bill,
I ain't watching this shit.
Fair.
Also, I was not a fan of the Batman either, so go figure.
Thank you.
Fair. Anyway, now we're going to go over to our meat and potatoes of the show, horror guilty pleasures. John, I can only imagine what horrors this panel will conjure up, and I mean horrors in both senses. Anyway, go ahead.
There's a lot of things that are just like guilty pleasures, and like I really had like a tough time figuring out like which ones I would pick, or like I didn't want to pick ones that other people would pick, but I also wanted to be the one to pick the ones that other people might pick. So I'm gonna just lead off with Jack Frost, and not Michael Keaton's Jack Frost.
Are you fucking serious? That was my number one. Are you gotta be fucking kidding me?
You need to go to your alternates now. I knew somebody else. I knew somebody else was gonna pick it. Jack Frost is, as far as '90s movies go, like one of the two that come to mind that's like so bad they're good. I won't mention the other one because I think somebody else will probably pick that one. But Jack Frost is just incredibly like every snowman pun, every stupid way you can get killed by a snowman, and it spawned a sequel. I mean, you got Shannon Elizabeth scene in the shower where did the carrot go? Like, everything about Jack Frost is it's awe-inspiring in a mediocre way. And I have to say, I've seen this movie so many times. I enjoy it every time, but you should not enjoy it. But I enjoy it.
Fair enough. I have not seen this, and I don't want to. Brian?
See it.
I saw this like when it very first came out, and I worked in a video store at the time. I honestly remember zero about it, so I will give my extra time to Bill, who wants to discuss it as well.
So I was in a punk band near late 90s, early 2000s, and we wrote a song about this. That was our ode to the Misfits. It's called The Ballad of Jack Frost. That's how much I fucking love this absolute trash film. And I mean that in every sense of the word. This film fails fundamentally on so many levels that it's actually a masterpiece. It is glorious.
Yes.
I mean, the whole antifreeze bit, fucking just, oh my God. I should live so long to see someone get their head cut off with a child's sled. Fantastic. I mean, amazing. Sarcastic 12 out of 5 stars for this film.
Yes. And they double down on the antifreeze gimmick in the second movie. It's great.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now we're going to go to...
Boatman, you haven't seen it?
No, I already said that. Yeah.
I'll give you my login for something wherever it is. You're gonna watch it.
No, I'm not.
It's 86 minutes. It's just fun.
If you play me in Untold,
I will Venmo you $5 to write a review. I will fucking seriously do this.
I'll take that offer. No, I'll look.
Easiest
$5
you
is
ever made.
$5 at the end of the day.
I'll match that. I'm going to match that $5 for you to watch Jack Frost. Let's go.
There you go. That's like
the easiest $10 you ever made.
Okay.
Stipulation, it has to be watched at normal speed.
Okay, no, I'm not him.
No,
I'm
that's
not him.
not
Not evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I don't do that. Cody even will come in here and vouch for me that I don't do that. I don't condone that. I give him crap for it. Don't lump me in with that.
I didn't think you did. I just took it as an opportunity to make a dig at him.
That's fair. Valid. Anyway, where were we? Brian, go ahead.
My only problem is I struggle with what to call a guilty pleasure, because half the stuff that I would say I don't feel guilty about at all for loving it. So I'm going to say one that I think some people might not like, but most people haven't even heard of, but I love it. It's a movie from 2000 and I don't even know what it is, 2011, called Detention. This is a movie from director Joseph Kahn, who is the director of my favorite non-horror guilty pleasure, which is Torque, which is basically Fast and Furious motorcycles, but it's so cheesy, it's hilarious, and it's so much fun to watch. Detention is a movie that it's I think in my review I call it blender mentality. They throw everything, and this is a movie it's a teen comedy, it's a horror movie, it's a sci-fi movie, it's coming of age, it's got romance, and it's everything is thrown into this thing. And as far as stylistically, I called it an 80s John Hughes movie written by 90s Kevin Williamson and shoved through a 2000s Edgar Wright film for style. It's weird. I won't go too much into the plot of it, but it's got so much of it stars Josh Hutcherson is the main star of this movie.
Oof.
There aren't a whole lot of other names in the movie, I don't believe.
Dane Cook's
Dane Cook is the principal in there. Yeah, nobody else of note really.
Oh my God, is this like a cross section of everyone that sucks?
Well, there you go. That makes it a guilty pleasure. But honestly, I would highly recommend this movie because I mean, you watch it and you start out thinking you're just watching this teen comedy, and then it takes this turn and you realize it's like a horror movie, but then it's built within this whole time travel sci-fi element, and it all kind of loops around. And I had never heard of this movie. I don't even know if it came out in theaters. I don't think it did. So I'd never heard of it until 7 years after it got released. And I watched the movie. At first I wasn't sure. I'm like, do I like this movie? Do I hate this movie? I'm not sure how I feel about it. But then I've watched it several times since then, and I actually really enjoy this thing. So I mean, I won't talk too much about the plot of it again, but it's just a movie that I think nobody's even heard of. But it's worth checking out because it's better than the straight to video kind of thing would make you think it is. It's just one that went under the radar.
That is fair. No, this is a movie I've actually had on my radar for a while that I've wanted to see. So I don't know if I would like it. I've been told it's annoyingly meta. Brian, is that accurate? Is it very meta?
It's somewhat meta. I mean, it's the kind of thing, like I said, it's kind of got that 90s Kevin Williamson dialogue that Scream, he did Scream movies. So it's definitely got a certain amount of meta. And then you add in kind of the Edgar Wright kind of style of filmmaking. So, I mean, yeah, it's very meta. I wouldn't call it annoyingly, but that's just me.
I'm saying not that you would call it annoyingly meta. Other people have called it annoyingly meta, and things that other people have called annoyingly meta are usually the things that I like that everyone else hates. So that...
And if you're not somebody who doesn't like horror movies, I mean, honestly, the horror element is kind of the smallest part of this. So it's kind of cheating to bring this into this conversation, into this episode. But it's definitely got horror in it. But that's not
considered horror on IMDb. And Brian, if we're being finicky about what horror
Warzone rules. There we go.
You're gonna hate what one of my picks is if we're being finicky about what horror is. Because Anyway, Bill, have you seen this?
I have not. But it sounds like a movie I would give a shot to.
Fair. John?
Definitely have seen it in the heyday. Like right before I cut the cord on cable, I was just having my DVR tape everything that came on the movie at like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning on all the Cinemax channels. And I'm sure Detention was in there. That's probably how I watched it. But I definitely have seen it. And everything Brian said is true. I'd say it's like a lot of the meta stuff is like not accidental is the wrong word, but it kind of like has no choice but to be that way with the way the plot of the movie is, I guess is the best way to put it. It's definitely worth watching. It's interesting. It's an interesting experiment in horror.
That is valid. Well, now we go to Bill. Bill, what fresh horrors hath you wrought?
Sometimes it's going to be okay. You never know. So, well, since my number one pick got yanked, which is fine. I never thought in a million years that would happen, but here we are. So I will go with another movie from the 90s. It was like, I found it by accident, watched it. This movie is bizarre. It's like a horror comedy. I think it was made for no money, but oh my God, do I love Cemetery Man. Cemetery Man is such a great time. It is so weird. So it's basically Rupert Everett runs a cemetery where all the dead people he buried always come back to life. And he has to kill them again and then bury them again. That's kind of basically the long short of it. And he has some other weird subplots with like him falling in love with a woman I don't want to get into, or his assistant falling in love with a dead woman after he takes her head and kind of has it and keeps it as a pet. It's like super weird, but bizarre in all the best ways possible. And everybody I show this movie to, they're like, that was the weirdest shit, but goddamn, this is such a fun time. So, yes.
Yeah. John?
Honestly, Bill, I think we're even now. This wasn't my pick because Cemetery Man is straight up my favorite 90s horror movie. Like, without question, if you ask me to list the top 10, I'm not a list guy, but if I made a list, and I did make a list once, Cemetery Man was my number one. I love this movie. I will recommend it to anybody. Whenever somebody asks me what's your favorite horror movie, I always say Cemetery Man. So the fact that you said this is great because I get a chance to talk about Cemetery Man.
Yeah.
There's also
It's
a
definitely
subplot-
like no budget whatsoever.
Yeah, there's
Like,
also
you
a
see
subplot
strings.
with a zombie child, which is great in that movie. Literally, like they just said, like, you know what? Give me ideas. Throw out ideas for a zombie movie, and they probably threw out like 12 ideas. Like, fuck it, we're using all these, and they just threw all of it into the movie, and it works. It's a fantastic movie. I love Cemetery Man beyond words.
Brian?
I have not seen this movie. I just added it to my watch list. Honestly, you said it, and my mind went to Cemetery Junction, which is a Ralph Fiennes, Ricky Gervais movie. It's a very different film. But yeah, this one I have never seen, and I don't know anything about it, so I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Oh, you gotta check this out. I love this.
Yeah, you specifically, Brian, you're gonna love this movie.
That is fair. Well, I'll be honest. I got a little bit nervous when Bill Cariola started talking about a mid-1990s ridiculous horror comedy, because Bill Cariola is the person that forced me to watch Tammy and the T-Rex, which is going to be my first pick here.
I told you would love this movie.
Tammy and the T-Rex is terrible, but did I have a great time watching this movie? Absolutely. This was a bad time, but a fun time. Denise Richards is terrible in this. Like, uniquely terrible in this. I remember the whole time watching this, I was just thinking, who is this for? Who is this for? This isn't for children. This isn't for adults. This isn't for anybody. It's like, it's too violent and sexual for children, but it's like has way too many like little kid moments for adults, and it exists, but I kind of love that it does because it is just so bizarre. John, have you seen Tammy and the T-Rex?
I haven't seen it. I'm aware of it. I have never seen it, so I will rectify that as soon as possible. The fact that it came up here, I will see it.
Brian?
No, this is another one where as soon as you said it, my mind went to the wrong movie because I'm picturing the Whoopi Goldberg movie Theodore Rex. Very different film again. But I've heard this title. I knew nothing about it. I didn't know Denise Richards and Paul Walker were in it, and now I kind of got to check it out.
Paul Walker's in it. Yeah.
Oh, was it like brief?
He's like in it for 10 minutes. Then he's
He's the
He's
T-Rex.
listed second on Letterboxd. So.
Oh god.
Brian, he's the T-Rex.
He is.
Oh,
Paul Walker's the T-Rex.
All right.
all right then. Watch
Bill,
this
go
then.
ahead. Oh, sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to cut you off. Oh,
right, sorry, I just
Bill,
wanna
go
watch
ahead.
Okay. There is a really great supplemental piece for this. So if you ever watch Movie Bob, he does this thing in October. It's called Schlocktober, where he talks about kind of films like this. The entire episode he did on this movie is like just as fascinating as the oddball film this is. Just knowing the history of this whole movie came about because some guy owned basically an animatronic dinosaur and said, "Hey, put that in a movie. Here's some money, I guess." And they're like, "All right, cool. We'll figure it out." And then they made it, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's like way too violent." And then they cut out all the gore, and then try to put it on TV and make it for kids. And then they re-released it with all the blood back in because this movie takes every fucking turn possible of like, well, this is weird. Oh, well, this got like straight up violent out of nowhere. I will say Terry Kaiser, MVP of this film, because he knew 100% the film he was in, and he is chewing every piece of scenery every second he's on screen. God bless that man. He totally got it. And the what is it? The evil kid for Children of the Corn, I believe, is also in there. Yeah. Like, this movie's just a weird, like, how the fuck are these people? And also the ending, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, is truly a fate worse than death.
Yep.
I would also like to point out this one also only available streaming on Shudder. So when you get your 7-day free trial for Scare Me, watch this too.
You're fucking welcome, the internet.
Anyway, John, go ahead with your second pick here.
Yeah, it sucks that I can only pick a limited amount. But, recently I was, developing a strength for trivia, and I was going through all my 90s slashers, and I rediscovered a movie that I didn't realize I loved this much the first time I saw it. But, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth times I watched it, I love Dr. Giggles. Dr. Giggles, 1992's Dr. Giggles. Larry Drake is like an underappreciated American treasure. This is another movie where I don't know what the writer's room looked like, but like they were like, all right, guys, brainstorm every doctor pun, every doctor stereotype. We have to fit every single doctor thing we can in 90 minutes. And they do it, man. Some of the kills in this movie are fantastic. He kills a girl with a Band-Aid, a giant Band-Aid, among other things. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Maybe not Boatman, but I'm sure the two of you have seen it. Dr. Giggles, if you haven't seen it, go ahead, check it out. It's relatively unoffensive, but it is funny and not scary. Funny. Watch it.
Yeah, I have not seen this. Shocker. Brian?
Yeah, I saw this back in like the 90s. It first came out. All I remember about it, I mean, because Larry Drake is somebody who I really only knew as like, you know, the mentally challenged Benny from LA Law. And then in this period of just a couple short years, he did like The Villain in Darkman and then this. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's really fun to see somebody do role completely different than what you know him as. I honestly don't remember a whole lot about the plot of the movie itself, but I think I remember enjoying it.
Bill?
I saw this opening night in the theaters. This movie's garbage, and I love it. The Band-Aid kill always being my favorite of just how utterly ridiculous that is. This movie's a hoot. I haven't seen this in years. I really need to watch this one again.
Fair enough. Yeah. We will go to Brian.
My second pick.
Yep, your second pick. And two of you can fight over which two. We'll get a third pick.
Oh, cool, because I already have three. So that's good.
Okay, Bill, you can go, and then I know John already expressed it, so unless, Brian, you want to fight.
No, that's fine. That's fine. They're the horror. They're the horror guys. I'll let them take pictures. My second guilty pleasure is absolutely guilty pleasure because this one is a completely shitty film. This is a movie I watch every fall around a certain time of year, but it's not Halloween. I watch it at Thanksgiving. The tagline is "Gobble gobble, motherfucker." This movie is Thanksgiving.
Yes. All right.
Thanksgiving is a movie that was made. It's basically a home movie. If you look at this thing, it's made like a $4,000 budget. It's really low quality. The actors are horrible. It's a bad movie. It's basically about a killer turkey going around killing everybody. He's wisecracking, saying all kinds of cool one-liners and things. The turkey is just completely done as like a puppet, and not like a good quality puppet. It's like a Triumph the Insult Dog kind of thing. It's just a really horrible puppet. But he's going around killing people. At one point, he's sexually assaulting a woman. He's got all the fun one-liners. At one point, he's wearing a gravy-flavored condom. He disguises himself as humans by wearing. Yes, you heard me right. He disguises himself as a human by at one point just wearing Groucho glasses, and so people just think he's a human. Another point, he's wearing another human face as disguise, like Leatherface or Hannibal Lecter. It's a horrible movie, but it's one that is so much fun to watch, especially because you watch it on Thanksgiving. Everybody else is watching their family-friendly movies, all these wonderful feel-good things, and I'm watching Thanksgiving. There was a sequel. It was called Thanksgiving 3. There is no Thanksgiving 2. The whole concept of it is that Thanksgiving 2, which was Thanksgiving in space, was so horrible that the turkey it was shelved, and now the killer turkey wants to go around and destroy the only remaining copies of it and kill those responsible for it. That one was not nearly as funny. That one, by that point, it kind of gotten the cult following of the first ones. They tried too hard, so don't bother watching the third one. But the first one, ton of fun.
I'll be honest, the third one sounds way better than the first.
The concept is good. It was not, though. It was not.
Fair. Bill?
I have never seen this movie.
This seems like such a Bill movie.
I know. It's been on my watch list for years. I've never gotten around to it. I apologize.
The movies Bill hasn't seen will never cease to shock me. John?
Thanksgiving is part of that subgenre of movies, kind of like One-Eyed Monster 2, where it's like things that shouldn't be killing people, which is great. Like this, Ginger Dead Man, all those movies
Rubber
are fantastic.
Deathbed.
Deathbed. Then whatever. All those movies. What was it? Rape Stove, the stove that rapes. That's a Patton Oswalt joke. It's not a real movie. Not a real movie.
There is no raping stove.
There's no rape stove.
Oh, I'm gonna
But
give
yeah,
that
all
full
those
reaction.
movies, all those movies where it's just like this random innocuous object or thing just killing people, I'm there for it. Every one of those movies, I'm there for it.
Has everyone said things about the turkey movie?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah, let's put some class back in here and talk about shopping mall, shall we? Do I even need to say anything about shopping mall? This movie's ridiculous. And it's just one of those ones where you just make someone watch it and they're like, what in the fuck is this film? Is this a sci-fi film? Is this a teen sex comedy? I have no idea what's happening in here, and I love every goddamn minute of it. So it's basically a bunch of kids. They work at a mall. The mall, for some reason, has high-tech security robots that just monitor the place at night, and then they go kill crazy because robots. So that's it. He's got lasers. They're trying to fight these things. It's fucking bonkers. It is just like one of those, I don't know how much cocaine you had to do till you got to that moment, and you said, I am putting this on film and preserving it forever. And I love every goddamn minute of it. Yes.
I think I'm just disassociating at this point. I
think
remember,
it's probably free on like YouTube.
Brian, did you write a question about this movie? Somebody wrote a question.
I don't think I did.
I've answered a question about this movie, like how many robots there are. I've answered a question about
Oh, that was not me.
No, we didn't ask that. We asked. I remember the answer was name the movie, and Mike Hanley got the question and hit it, but I don't remember who wrote that question. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I haven't seen this because you guys are all masochists. I'm sorry, John.
Oh, I've definitely seen Shopping Mall. I've seen Shopping Mall several times. It's great. It's like, and it's a who's who of like, 80s sitcom. Who's that? The dude from Head of the Class is in it. The preppy dude's in it. And there's a few other like, faces if you're as old as we are.
And
Caleb, syndication TV for Kaleb Boatman, actual TV for us.
What is her name? She's in like everything. She's like royalty. Hold on. What?
Barbara Crampton?
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't coming to me. Yeah,
She's
fucking come on. You never go wrong with Barbara Crampton, the woman that never ages, apparently. So.
And the best one is Dick Miller. Come on. No, this is a movie. I didn't see this movie until, I don't know, like 5 years ago. I finally watched it the first time. It was on like Amazon Prime or something, probably around Halloween time, and I watched it. And I mean, it's the kind of thing, if you watch it knowing you're going to that kind of 80s cheese fest horror, you really can enjoy it because it's a ton of fun. They clearly thought they were on the cutting edge of technology using these robots and lasers, things like that. And that just makes it all the more hilarious because it's just so, basic. But yeah, this is a fun one.
That is fair. Okay, this is the movie that stretches the definition of horror, but IMDb let it count, so I'm going to count it. It also stretches the definition of guilty pleasure a little bit because I don't know if this movie has a reputation for being bad, but this just, to me, it feels like a guilty pleasure because it's a movie that just feels very stupid, but I liked it anyway. Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. This one is very silly, very dumb. At this point, I don't remember at this point how many monsters Abbott and Costello had met, but they had met a few at this point, and you can tell they were running out of ideas. But there's a lot of just very stupid puns. Like there's a whole like bit about a pickaxe, and like it gets into like a very like, did you pick this pickaxe or which pickaxe did you pick? And it's very stupid. It's very stupid. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's very dumb. It's very dumb. I enjoy it anyway. John?
Sadly, no. I have not gotten to those late stage Universal movies for this exact reason. I'm sure this is a very safe movie to show where you work, Caleb. But I never got around to watch this movie, unfortunately.
I didn't even show that I have to watch this for work. I watched this because Lucas Schobach picked Abbott and Costello movies back in the 2021 Warzone term. Anyway, Brian?
I have never seen an entire Abbott and Costello movie. It's just not my kind of humor. I can watch like short bits of them, like obviously like the Who's on First and things like that. I enjoy, but anytime I've tried to watch more than 10 minutes of them, it's just not my style. Them and Marx Brothers and all that kind of stuff, just not for me.
Nope.
I have also never seen this movie. So I've actually Abbott and Costello is a bit of a blind spot for me. Like Brian, I've kind of the famous bits, but I've never actually watched any movie of theirs. So I'm bad at comedy.
Fair. Anyway, now we got room for 2 picks. So John, I'll let you kick it off.
If I'm going to get a third pick, I just got to go for a more modern movie. I don't want to say more modern. It's still, I think at least 10 years old, if not more. Hobo with a Shotgun. Let's talk about Hobo with a Shotgun. Just like over the top. I don't think anybody really loves this movie. No one's talking about Hobo with a Shotgun being like a great movie, but Rutger Hauer goes full bore into this movie. It's so over the top. It's about he's a hobo and he comes into this town, this depraved town that's under the iron fist of a criminal warlord, and his 2 sons, which are great. Slick and Ivan are some of the greatest characters you'll ever see in an exploitation horror movie. And then there's also these hitmen characters called the Plague, who are also fantastic. They do harpoon nooses into the ceiling. There's people getting stuck in manhole covers with their heads ripped off by cars. Everything you can imagine in this movie, they just do it. They go full bore. And it's part of that, it was that time period where people were just trying to top each other. And this started as one of the fake trailers in the Grindhouse movie. And it's one of the 2 movies they actually made into an actual movie. So Hobo with a Shotgun, check it out.
Fair. I haven't seen this, obviously. Brian?
I haven't seen this one. This is one, and I didn't even realize it was a horror movie. I'm kind of more interested in seeing it now, because Rutger Hauer I like, especially when he does his more he obviously has been in some big budget things like Blade Runners and the Lady Hawks and things like that. But I love Rutger Hauer when he's in Blind Fury and stuff like that. There's just this stuff that's just silly for the sake of not silly, but it's just kind of fun, low budget action, whatever it is. So this sounds like my kind of thing, but I have not seen it yet.
Fair enough. Bill?
I haven't either, but now Brian made me sad. I haven't seen Blind Fury in years. I love that movie. Oh, it's so good. I got both of them. Just throw that right in the cart.
I'm shocked.
My friend has been harping on me for years to watch Hobo with a Shotgun. I just have not gotten around to it. I'm sure it is.
I have it as 5 stars on Letterboxd. Damn right.
I like this panel because normally I have these panels and I've seen everything, whether I liked it or not. But I've already got 3 or 4 movies tonight I added to my watch list. So,
Bill, take us home.
Okay, I too, like John, decided it was almost going to be Chud, but I decided to leave Chud off. So, because you don't need to see Chud, it's fine. So, but a couple years ago, me and Beyonce Knowles just happened on a random movie, and we watched it. And I was like, this is actually kind of funny. It's a little weird. And it is 2015's Freaks of Nature. I don't know if you've had... Okay, yeah. This is just... Is this movie good? No. Is it fun to watch and just dumb? Absolutely. The amount of people in this film is fucking insane. It is and these are the supporting people of Joan Cusack, Bob Odenkirk, Keegan-Michael Key, Patton Oswalt, Vanessa Hudgens, Dennis Leary, fucking Werner Herzog. This is nuts. And it's basically, it is a town overrun with vampires and werewolves and zombies. And it's just treated this is normal. The zombies live in a ghetto and everyone makes fun of them and they're kind of intelligent until they eat a brain. They get kind of dumb. And there's vampires running around. And then aliens land and fuck the whole thing up. It is so fun because it is so preposterous. And I had a blast watching this. It is a good time. It's probably free somewhere. It is worth it. It is worth one watch. So.
Okay, then. You lost me, and then you had me with Joan Cusack and Bob Odenkirk. So pretty much anything with them I'm not opposed to.
Yeah. There's a great bit. What is his name? He's from the Upright Citizens Brigade. It's gonna bother me, but he's in a bunch of stuff. He's one of those guys where you just see him that guy.
Yeah, and that's
what is his name?
Which guy from the Upright Citizens Brigade? The bigger dude or the smaller dude or
bigger guy?
Isn't it, his name's Matt Walsh? Isn't that his name?
Yes, Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
That's how you're looking for? Oh,
he was the cheer coach in Bring It On. That guy. You would probably figure that out if you saw that movie.
Well,
Anyway,
but
The other guy,
yeah.
I know
he,
the
gets, he gets eaten, and he is talking through the whole thing because he is not dying right away, but he's just getting eaten by zombies. He's like, why am I not passing out from all of this pain? Please, God, make it stop. And it goes on for an uncomfortable amount of time. It's really fun.
Fair. Anyway, John?
Haven't seen it. It does come up. I'm not sure which. I saw it come up on some service I have. I'm not sure. It's definitely streaming somewhere because it's been shown to me recently. I want to say it's got to be Hulu or Peacock or something. It's on one of them right now. I know that. So I will make a note to watch that.
That's fair. Brian?
Yeah, Freaks of Nature's movie. I think it's worth more than one watch. I've already watched this. It looks like I've logged it 3 times. The last time I watched it was just last month. But I remember watching this movie before it even came out, just hearing the cast and the log line of what it was about. It was originally called Kitchen Sink. Because of the fact that it had vampires, werewolves, aliens, zombies, and all this stuff, just like everything you could think of was thrown in there. Then they obviously changed the title to Freaks of Nature, which probably makes a little more sense to most people. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies that, like, you know, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a horror comedy, which obviously is something I really enjoy. It's got a great cast. I mean, besides he said the supporting cast, you got Mackenzie Davis, who I've always liked. Nicholas Braun is the lead. I think he's a funny guy when he's doing the thing. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. It's more fun than you think.
That's fair. I do like Nicholas Braun, so maybe this is in Detention, even though Detention was already on my radar.
It's on Hulu if you have the Stars add-on. That's where it is. I do have.
Yeah,
and
I
think
it says it's on Amazon too. Also, Ian Roberts was the guy.
Ian Roberts, yeah, but
Ian Roberts.
Anyway,
yeah, he's like, you've seen him in a million things, so
that's fair. Well, that does conclude that portion of the show. To recap, Jack Frost, Attention, Cemetery Man, Tammy and the T-Rex, Dr. Giggles, Thanksgiving, Chopping Mall, Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, Hobo with a Shotgun, and Freaks of Nature.
That's the best list I've ever seen.
Now we are going to go wrap it up with the movie of the month, which was Rope from 1948. No one here had talked about it yet this month, right?
No.
Okay, John, I'll let you start.
You know, it's not every day I got to watch a movie from the year my father was born, so that was interesting. But yeah, I watched it. I've never seen it before. I mean, I've heard people talk about it like my entire life. I never actually got around to seeing it. I knew what it was about mostly, and watching it, it was really good. I think everybody, nobody lied to me about this movie. I felt it was compelling the entire time through. I found myself, as I do with most of these movies, because I have like a twinge of sickness in me, and I was like, I could have done that better. I could have gotten away with it. Like, like the one scene, like where like they there's a little bit too much foreshadowing for it to be like a perfect movie, because you knew the one dude's gonna just like lose his shit like later on in the movie, like this guy's gonna break. And the ones like when they're alone, the fact that they don't move the body bothered me. Like if they knew that he was gonna look there, they should just move the goddamn body, and they would have got away with it. So that's how I feel about Rope.
Fair enough. What do you give it out of 5, John?
I give it 4 out of 5.
4. Brian?
I'm not generally a Hitchcock guy. I mean, a lot of the ones people love, like the Psychos and the Vertigos and things like that, I'm not a big fan of. But Rope is actually one of my 2 favorite Hitchcock movies. The other being Strangers on a Train, which also has Farley Granger in it, although he's a horrible actor. That's just a coincidence. But I really enjoy this one. And this one, I mean, it felt very much like essentially a filmed play. You can tell it's like kind of this one setting thing, just the way it works. But I love the way that they used they technically did it. Like, they have like the whole cityscape background outside the window, but anytime they like move away from the window, when you come back, it's changed. So it's like, it's getting towards night. It's not just the lighting, like the clouds, the fake clouds they have moved, things like that. And so it's just, I thought especially for the day, to be able to pull that off in this kind of one setting thing, it worked. And that also does kind of betray the whole real time aspect of the story, though, also because, their whole dinner party from arrival to departure lasts like 30 minutes. And then like also it goes from bright daylight sun to complete nighttime within the, 79 minutes of the movie. But I mean, the performances in this are fun. Kind of the cat and mouse game is great. The one guy, Brandon, totally reminded me of Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he could totally play the role if they remade this movie today. I found it interesting that Jimmy Stewart's character created The Purge. It was his idea, it turns out. So I mean, that was kind of fun. But no, this is for somebody like me who's not a big lover of Hitchcock, I actually quite enjoyed this one. I gave it 3.5 stars.
That's fair. 3.5. You said.
Oh, and mention for Spence, my third pick would have been Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. Just so you know.
That's fair. I'm sorry, Adelaide. Bill.
So I grew up kind of on Hitchcock, but not mainly not the movies per se. But when I was a kid, they would do Alfred Hitchcock Presents on Nick at Night reruns, and I watched these constantly, and I really kind of love that storytelling, the way they did it. And so this is one of those, I've heard about it for a year. I heard this is a great movie. So I finally watched it literally right before I got on here, and I was like, oh, it's an hour and 20 minutes. Jesus Christ. They were efficient. And it's a few minutes in where I realized, is this whole movie going to be one take? And it just about is. And I'm like, that is expert for the time. I was blown away. And the way they do the tension and everything slowly, and fucking Stewart is killing it in this. And you just see the wheels turning in his head as he's going through this party. But John Dahl kills it. He is the most smug son of a bitch I've ever seen on film in probably quite some time. And I really just want to see him get popped in the face just once. So the thing that bugged me though is the end of just shooting the gun out the window, and I'm like, oh my God, call the cops. What's going? I'm like, I'm from Philly. We hear a gunshot, we tell you to shut the fuck up. So, but that's just that's just the way we are. But no, honestly, I haven't logged it yet, but I'd say 4.5 out of 5. This is every bit the movie you've heard. So
that is valid. Yeah. So that does conclude our show for the week. But next month, we do have, I don't know exactly, Tim and I haven't talked about when we are doing these, but next month, we've got movies starring SNL alums, fantasy movies, 80s comedies, and movies you'd like to live in. So if you want to be on any of those, message myself or Tim Brzakala, and we'll get you on there. But thank you to our panel. Thank you to John, Brian, Bill. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been Multiplex Logged It. We will see you next time.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening,